What is going on, Governor? It's Chisgule here, and today we're going to talk about the Ark of Osiris update, which just hit. Yes, this is exciting. We're going to talk about the new civilizations. We're going to look at the commanders, and man, they are spicy. And then we're going to get a look at the rewards for Ark of Osiris. More videos to follow over the coming days, and I guess we'll wrap it up with just some other quality of life updates we noticed. And by the way, these are really nice. Really, really nice. So if you like learning about the latest and greatest the day it goes live, if you like learning about those strategies as soon as they're available, you should totally like and subscribe because we're going to cover this stuff the day that this stuff happens. And we are a sponsored creator with Rise of Civilizations. So let's get right into it and let's start talking about these civilizations. And I think these new civilizations, there are 3 of them, are very good for endgame players. The first is Arabia with a cavalry attack increase of 5%, 10% lift in damage to barbarians and neutral units, and damage dealt by rallies by 5%. So this is insanely good for the governors that are leading rallies, both against other players and against barbarian forts. I think this is really exceptional for an endgame player because, look, there's nothing here that helps you get to the endgame. I mean, I suppose the damage to barbarians helps, but this is a civilization not about getting to the endgame, but at being at the endgame. Now, the special unit is a cavalry unit, which I think is exceptional. And look, like if you're leading a rally against a player city on your kingdom, you really want to have the maximum potential effectiveness, and I think that 5% damage dealt by rallied armies is really quite strong. The next civilization is the Ottoman civilization, which has a archer special unit, a 5% increase to archer health, troop march speed of 5%, and active skill damage by 5%. This is also really, really strong, and if what you care about in the end game is open field combat, it's really hard to beat the Ottoman Empire. The only downside I see here is that they've got the archer special unit, and, you know, most of us have not focused on archer commanders, and that's not because the archer commanders are bad exactly. I mean, I know El Cid is not as popular. It's that they're just less available. They're just less available. So the mainstay, the crucial commander, I think, for an archer unit is arguably Yi Seong-Ye, and he only just became available on my kingdom, and I'm in Kingdom 51. So I think that the Ottoman Empire is very powerful. Your comparison point here for open field combat, I would argue, is Rome, because they also have the march speed, and they've got infantry, which is, I would argue, a better unit given the commanders that we've had available to us up until this point. With that said, so active skill damage and march speed, that is just a beautiful thing to see in a civilization. If you are at the end game, and I say that because there's nothing here that helps you get to the end game, then this could be a really great choice for your open field combat, which, by the way, going to be super relevant, I think, in Alliance Battlegrounds. The next empire is the Byzantium Empire, and they also have a cavalry unit and cavalry health increase of 5%. They've got stone gathering speed of 10% and a hospital capacity of 15%. Now, what I think is kind of interesting here is that we really need to compare to the other civilization that has a 15% hospital capacity boost, and that's Korea. Now, Korea is very good at getting you to your T5s because of the research speed increase, and that's really only for players that are paying a lot of money toward getting their T5s or starting to approach the point where they've saved up a ton of speed ups that they're going to burn through literally hundreds of days of research speed ups to power out their T5s. I would argue that if what you want is a little more protection against being attacked in your kingdom, the hospital capacity is kind of interesting. Because hospital capacity is not relevant for Alliance Battlegrounds. It's not relevant. So you would only be focusing on this civilization if I think you're concerned about combat in the early to mid game in your kingdom, and you think your hospital is going to fill up. Now, by the way, these other civilizations, I think, are more end game civilizations. I really got to think more if I would start with one of these, but probably not. But because I believe this commander that you start with, Belisarius, I think he is a barbarian specialist. He's a peacekeeper. This could potentially be an interesting civilization to start with. So if you're starting the game, I don't know. I think this could be a kind of interesting civilization. And I know you get a Civ Switch token at 10, but City Hall 10, you might just hang on to it, and I think that's fine. So overall, Arabia, amazing if you are the rally leader. Ottoman Empire, amazing if you're focused on open field combat. Both of these, if you're toward the end game, are strong. Byzantium could be a very, very valid new starting civilization. All right, let's get a look at these new commanders because, oh my goodness, are they exciting. Are they exciting? 3 legendary commanders. Lots to talk about here. Constantine the First is a infantry garrison and support commander. Their first skill does no damage. It lasts for 5 seconds, decreases the target's attack by a max of 40%, which is solid, and increases troop damage reduction by 10% in your army and nearby friendly armies. This commander could be good. For this skill alone, damage taken by 10% for all nearby armies. If you've got a big, like, open field combat with a bunch of armies, and Alliance Battlegrounds is going to have exactly that, I assume. Yeah, this seems really, really strong. The second skill is also insane. Infantry health increase max of 40%. 40%? Now, something funky's going on here, because normally in a game, there's a concept called min-maxing. The idea is that you have less diversity of your skills being applicable, but they're so good at one thing that you get less total benefit, but it's so good at the one thing you don't care. Now, this is the opposite of that situation. We're getting 40% of stat points here, whereas I'm going to compare to Charles Martel. He gets a total of 30% of stat points. It's 15% health and 15% defense. So maybe defense is better than health. I don't know. Now I need to go look into that. But you're getting 10 extra percentage points of stats here on this second skill, Allegiance, and that seems insanely good to me. Next up is a garrison skill. It increases the attack of the garrison by a max of 10% and attack of the watchtower by 10%. This is exactly on par with what we see at the legendary tier for garrison skills. Now, this next one is really fascinating. When the troops units are below 50%, give a powerful treatment, healing factor max of 15,000, which can only be triggered once per hour after the troop has left the city. Now, this is interesting. There's a couple things I'm a little confused about and things I'm intrigued about. The thing I'm confused about is it says after the troop has left the city. So does that mean that this doesn't work for city defense? Or does it work for city defense? Or do they just mean once per hour? Or do they mean once per hour, but the troop has to leave the city and then come back? I'm not sure. But let's just assume it's applicable everywhere. In your city and outside the city. Because I would assume it is. When is this insanely good? It's insanely good for a situation where you're in an absolutely crucial fight. And it is the difference maker between winning and losing. And I say that because if it's not the difference maker between winning and losing, it didn't do much for you. And if the fight is prolonged, if you're defending something, and this applies to defending things, if it's like a 30-minute fight, and by the way, I'll have a card up in the top for either a pass assault that was like 30 plus minutes or a flag defense that was 30 plus minutes. This is less exciting for a prolonged battle. You want a skill that is constantly giving you benefits in a prolonged battle. So this is good for one short, crucial fight. Maybe your city gets rallied and they're not reinforcing the rally. In that case, this seems very, very good. Now, the expertise skill increases troop attack by 25% and defense by 5%. This is great. Everything about this is great. Yeah, I like this. Another 30 percentage points of stats, and it applies to all units, which is a really big deal. That's a really big deal. Overall, Constantine, exceptional defender. But if you look here, there's nowhere to get them yet. There's nowhere to get them yet, and I don't think it's Alliance Battlegrounds. I'll show you why in a bit. So, Constantine's amazing. We don't know where we're going to get them. I am excited about this commander. Next up is Saladin. Saladin is a cavalry, conquering, and support commander. And wow, are they the counter to a lot of things that are happening in this game. The first skill deals direct damage, a damage factor max of 1,400, which is a big deal. Reduces their march speed by 30%, which is amazing for open field combat. And reduces the healing effects received by 40%. Oh, if you played World of Warcraft, this is the Mortal Strike. This is the counter to Richard I and the counter to the ability on Constantine, the fourth skill. This is very, very strong. I like everything that's happening here. I'm scared by everything that's happening here because I actually use Richard I. Now, next up, and this is a cavalry commander, 20% cavalry defense, 20% cavalry attack, and 5% march speed. What? What? So this is, if Constantine had 40% of stats, maybe this was min-maxing, because we're getting 40% of stats and 5% march speed. I mean, this is bananas. It's good. It's really good. It's really, really good. It's scary good. It's scary good. If we compare for a second to Minamoto, he's got 10% march speed and 20% attack. Would I rather have 5% less march speed and get 20% defense? Yes. Yes, I would. Cao Cao has 30% attack and 10% march speed. Actually, I might prefer the march speed in this case. So, anyways, oopsies. That just seems really good. That just seems really, really good. Let's look at the next skill. Skill damage taken from enemies is reduced by a max of 50%. 50%. And counterattack damage taken reduced by 30%. I mean, this counters Minamoto Cao Cao. This counters high damage units. This counters low damage units. This counters the strategy that your infantry army with Richard I and Charles Martel is doing. This commander's insane. The fourth skill. This commander's insane. Increase damage to garrisons by 25%, but you can't plunder resources. Who cares? Who cares that you can't plunder resources? 25% damage? 25% damage. Let's just compare. Let's just compare. Caesar? Well, he's not doing damage. Hold on. And neither... Okay, I swear I know which commanders do damage. Okay. Hannibal Barca. Doesn't do damage. Okay, well, maybe we don't have a good comparison point. We got to look at the epic tier for our comparison point. So we have a 7% damage boost from Conqueror of Africa. That's our comparison point to the 25% and cannot plunder resources. I could have swore there was a legendary commander that actually had a damage boost to cities. Oh yeah, here it is. 10%. 10%? 25%. Now granted, it's not at the same skill slot. It's at the fourth skill slot. And the thing I guess we need to be comparing to is the troop capacity. So maybe that's not an apples to apples comparison, but this commander seems insane so far, and it only gets better. The expertise skill increases the damage bonus of their first skill, reduces the target march speed even more, and reduces the healing effects even more. I mean, this commander seems insanely strong. Where are they strong? Everywhere? Wait a minute. I guess they're best for player cities. They're best for player cities, but wow. Everything that's happening with this commander is insane. Good in open field. Great in open field. Great to counter if you know an enemy has a certain unit. Yeah. This commander's insane. They're not available, and I'm glad for that, because I don't know what I'm going to do about this commander yet. They seem really good. Next up, Mehmed II. They are a leadership conquering skill commander. The first skill deals damage factor max of 1,400 to a fan-shaped area of 5 targets. This is the same as Yi Seong-Ye, but they have more, which is that they also do additional damage to cities and garrisons, or sorry, city garrisons and watchtowers, which is an additional damage factor of 450. Wow, if you're attacking player cities, this seems good. And this seems especially good for the upcoming game mode Alliance Battlegrounds, because I think rallies are going to be less common and swarm attacks are going to be more common. Why is that? Because there's no deaths. There's no troop deaths. So you don't care quite as much that a rally is more effective. A swarm might be the way for time purposes to be attacking player cities in that game mode. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This commander seems good. Land and Sea. Increased troop attack by 20% and skill damage bonus by 30%. Yeah, pair with another commander that's doing huge skill damage. For instance, I would definitely use Hannibal as the primary. This commander is the secondary. You get that defense reduction from Hannibal, and then you just crush them with this guy with all that skill damage. Savage. Next up, Faith. When attacking the city, normal damage has a 10% chance to cause an additional damage to garrisons of 1,000 damage factor. If you're attacking player cities, that seems really strong, and that's what this commander is geared out for. Sage King. Increase your troop capacity by 15%, which is really, really good, and your maximum rallied army capacity by 10%. I mean, if you're attacking player cities, this commander is a must. This commander is a must bring. Must slam dunk bring. Must bring. Next up, Grand Artillery Array. Increases the damage factor of your primary active skill by 300, which is really good. And it increases the damage factor to city garrisons and watchtowers by 50. Not much, but it's a boost. And it adds a 50% chance to deal a second burst of additional damage to city garrisons and watchtowers with a damage factor of 500. I mean, this commander is for attacking player cities, and they're really good at it. And let's compare troop capacity of 15% and the rallied army capacity. If we just look here, so Caesar's only 15%. So are they saying that the other skills of Caesar are that much better? That, like, they can, on this commander, give both of these things? I've got to think about this. I don't think you need to retire your Caesars. I don't think you need to abandon Caesar as a commander. I think they do different things, and they might even just be really good together. Nah, I don't think they are, actually. I take it back. I don't know. I got to figure this out. I got thinking to do. We got more commanders to look at. This commander is available in the tavern, and it says they're available in the expedition. But to me, this means that maybe they rotate in this bottom area with where you have refresh chances down below. So they're basically unobtainable that way. Like, they almost never show up there. I've seen legendary commanders show up down there maybe a total of 3 times, and my kingdom's 120 days old. So, okay, next up is Belisarius, and there's a lot to be excited about here. The active skill decreases the damage of the target by 30%, which is awesome. The defense is reduced by 30%, which is amazing when you have multiple commanders hitting the same target, and deals massive damage. I mean, it deals damage, okay? It says it deals damage factor of 450. A lot going on here. Our comparison point is Boudica. Boudica does slightly different stuff, but I like what I see here. All of this is really good, and this is a Peacekeeper, and comparing again to Boudica, she's got a 25% damage boost to barbarians and a 20% experience lift. Here we just have straight damage, and I dig it. 35% bonus damage to barbarians. This commander will make battling barbarians easier for free-to-play players, and I love that this commander exists. Next up, increases the defense of cavalry units by 15% and the march speed by 25% for the next 10 seconds after leaving battle. When is this insane? I don't know. When you're going from barbarian pack to barbarian pack to barbarian pack. Also, I am really eager to see how this works in PvP. If you can use the mobility tree and, like, get out of combat, like, we may have the new fastest commander, folks. We may have the new speedy commander pair with Cao Cao. Like, it could be a new speedy commander has been crowned. Next up is oblique tactics. When the target army has been reduced to less than 50% strength, increased damage dealt by 25%. Ooh. So you move quickly, you punish the weak armies, you get away from everybody else. Seems strong to me. Next up is the expertise skill, which makes it so that your defense of cavalry units goes up by 15%? Am I reading that correctly? 15% defense to your cavalry units, and your march speed increases by 25% more, so it's 50% march speed for the next 10 seconds. I'm sorry. Hold on. We just need to compare for a second. So you're saying that Pelagius gets 10% stat boost, and this commander gets 15% stat boost and 25% more march speed. Am I understanding correctly? We just need to confirm. This is defense and sorry, my mind's a little blown. And here we have defense and attack. Is attack that much better than defense? Whew, this commander seems really good. Whereas Pelagius, I think, is a better skill damage commander and has more sustain. I would say that this commander is more oriented toward being speedy, nimble, and really a pain to deal with in Mighty Governor if you're going around killing people's farmers. Yikes. Let's talk about the next commander. If someone knows how to pronounce this name correctly, please let me know. I believe it's Baibars. Their first skill deals massive damage, a damage factor of 750 at max, to the enemy, maximum of 3 targets in a fan-shaped area. Sweet, AoE, love it. Reduces the march speed. Love this for open field. Max of 30% reduction. Seems really good for open field combat. Increases the attack of cavalry by 20%. Okay, pretty basic, but straightforward. Let's compare for just a second to Pelagius, because that is the commander we'd be comparing to. Yeah, this is even. This is even. It's again, feels a little weird from a min-maxing standpoint. I guess they're saying attack and defense are all equal, and I guess that's fine. Next up, the normal attack has a 100% chance to decrease the attack of the garrison by 7%, and defense by 7% when attacking other governor cities. All right, so we've got a commander that's good in open field, and also for attacking player cities. There's a little bit of anti-synergy here. Like, you really don't care about the march speed when you're attacking a city. Like, you really don't care about the march speed, but okay, sure. The next skill, after exiting battle, and not when you're routed or completely defeated, a portion of slightly wounded units will be healed, healing factor of 200, and the march speed will increase by 20% for 10 seconds. Cool. So if you can find a way to get out of combat, you can definitely get away. I mean, we've got here 2 cavalry commanders that, when paired together, could be really quite good. I think you need some amount of march speed to even get out of combat in the first place, so I don't know. The other thing to think about is that there are cavalry talents that make it so that when you're below 50%, you have 30% more march speed. So, like, if your unit gets below 50%, like, you could just be so fast, you're almost uncatchable, and if you're attacking weaker armies, maybe you can still do a lot of work. The expertise skill here makes it so that the first skill does even more damage, 250 more damage factor, and increases the number of targets to 5. Sweet. It reduces the march speed even more, 50% march speed reduction. This commander seems really good in open field with the option of hitting player cities. To me, that screams Alliance Battlegrounds. That's where this guy's going to be really, really strong, and I'm psyched for that. By the way, these commanders are available in the Tavern and the Expedition. They're in silver keys, I believe, and definitely in the gold keys. And this next commander is no exception. I can talk. Osmond I. They are a leadership, conquering, and skill tree commander. First skill, wield the Sword of Osmond, dealing massive damage factor of 850. Now, this is where I get a little perplexed. Damage factor of 850 is fine, but if we compare to the commander we just looked at, or even our good friend Boudica, She had a max damage factor of, I guess it was 600 before I unlocked her expertise skill. And let's look here. Yeah, it was damage factor 600, reduces target rage by 100, and attack by 25%. I mean, I would rather have all those other things than that little boost of extra damage, but I guess if it's just one target you're hitting and you want to do damage, that's damage. The next one increases troop attack by 15% for 120 seconds after attacking cities for more than 30 seconds. That was a mouthful. If you attack a city for more than 30 seconds, you get a 15% attack boost for 120 seconds. If you attack a city for more than 30 seconds, it must be a rally that was reinforced. So, like, I would much rather have things that get me to the point where, like, I'm doing more damage to begin with than, like, a big boost later. I need to think about where this is good. I'm struggling a little bit. The next skill, after an active skill is used, deals additional damage factor of 400. Woo! I mean, this guy wants to deal a lot of damage to a single target. And so I would pair with commanders that elevate skill damage. I would pair with commanders that increase your rage. This screams rage generation as someone you want to pair this guy with so that you get those skills hitting constantly. Just get those active skills rolling. Seems really strong. By the way, I assume this would trigger for the active skill of the primary commander and the active skill of the secondary commander. So this is really like a total direct damage factor of 800. Seems good. Next up is Sultan's Glory. Troop capacity of 10%, which screams to me, again, open field. Open field. So next up, expertise skill. Wield the Sword of Osman. Okay, so the primary skill, their damage goes up 250. I don't know. 250 damage factor? I mean, didn't Boudica get 400 damage factor? To me, what this is saying is that this commander is min-maxing. By the way, we now have a commander that is actually min-maxing. This commander is going all in on damage factor. They're going all in on damage factor and additional damage factor and doing skill damage. I mean, they're like over the top, which makes sense because I'm pretty sure that this commander is lined up with the Empire, the civilization that does skill damage. So you have a commander that's min-maxing here, and I bet you there's going to be ways to break it and really exploit the fact that they do huge amounts of damage. And I'm looking at commanders like Yi Seong-Ye, for instance, that elevate skill damage a lot. Like, there's probably some ways to really break this, and I'm going to be eager to think about it. Overall, I am super pumped about the addition of all these commanders. Now, I know this is one of the longest videos I've probably made in a while. We must talk about a couple other things. The first is a quality of life thing, which I hope I can still show. Good. I want to show this while my mysterious merchant is here. Quality of life upgrade. Now there's a gem confirmation. I don't know, maybe this was here before and I didn't notice, but I think this is new. A gem spending confirmation. Oh my goodness. I bet this applies other places too, but I'm not bold enough to try and find out. I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. We go to the barracks. Okay, 12 gems. Is it going to ask me if I want to spend 12 gems? Nope. Nope. So maybe it's just a mysterious merchant. We face checked it. 12 gems was an acceptable face check. I got to queue these guys up, and I'll do that later. We got stuff to talk about. I need to show you, if you go to the expedition where it was, there's now a war button. If you enter into the Ark of Osiris, there's not a lot that we can do yet in the more advanced kingdoms, but if we go up to the upper right, there's a button called Rules. I just want to review the rewards before we close out this video. Every member of the winning alliance gets rewards, and I love that they did this. The incentive should be to win as an alliance, because you can only send 30 players. So the incentive should be to send the most active, most awesome, skilled players that you've got. And granted, I feel like everybody should have an opportunity to play, so I will refine my stance a little bit, but there's incentive here to win as an alliance. Now, there's also individual rewards, which is kind of cool. And those individual rewards go out to the winning alliance and to the alliance that is not the winner. And that's cool. The rewards are basically double, I think. Maybe even across the board. Looks like almost that's true for the winning alliance. So I think this is really exciting. There's a lot of details about the Ark of Osiris, and this video is way too long, so we'll cover them soon. I'm probably going to live stream shortly after I put this live on my channel, so we'll have a lot to talk about. Overall, I think this is really exciting. This update is, in my opinion, far and away the most exciting update ever to Rise of Civilizations. I am excited to be a part of it, and we are going to cover the heck out of every single thing that goes live. So, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe. If you want that latest and greatest update, like and subscribe. We're going to cover that stuff as soon as it happens. And until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.